You're listening to the Esoterics Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Fioraliz.
And this is Joe. How is everybody doing? Welcome back to the Esoterics Podcast.
Hey, Joe. How you doing today?
I am really, really good. Yeah, I feel a little bit tired.
Me
There's
too.
some crazy energy going on, right? With the
Mm-hmm.
eclipse energy.
Yeah. 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 I felt really like today, I felt very just like I didn't want to do anything. And it felt like I hadn't had coffee in months or something. I don't know. It was weird. It was really weird. I had to take a nap. Like, yeah, I felt real heavy.
Did you work on the house today?
I did. I did. Actually, I started an Instagram account to like track the stuff for the
Yeah.
house. Yeah, it's called Franco Abode on
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm excited.
so
I'm gonna
and
follow.
it's completely selfish. It's totally for me because I like to see before and afters, and like before and afters motivate the crap out of me. So
Right.
if I can put together my own before and afters and just look at the progress that I'm making on a room day by day, or whatever, week by week, whatever it is, it helps me. So yeah, so I have that if anyone's interested.
Oh yeah, you
Taking
have a
a look.
lot of pictures on there.
Yeah, it's all
Oh
coming
look.
along.
So, people can look at what I mean when I said that it was spacious. Oh my gosh, the floor in the kitchen, is that ripped up yet?
No, the floor in the kitchen's not getting ripped up. We're doing the flooring over it because it's vinyl. It's just a vinyl
Oh,
sheet, so
yeah.
so we don't need to. And I can't
No. And then,
imagine like how hard that is to rip up.
okay, well, I can't imagine wanting to paint over that wallpaper. What did
I
you
mean,
do when you first saw it?
we had to do what we had to do with that wallpaper. It was just I researched because I removed wallpaper from several rooms, but
Yeah,
when I got to that one room, that paper was so stuck,
I bet.
and I was like, I'm just gonna be here all day, and I don't want to do that. So I researched different methods of like what you can do about it, and one of them is you can seal wallpaper with oil-based primer. So we did that for that one entire room, and then we did the texture on top,
Cool.
and it all worked out so far. So far so good. Um,
Okay, are you keeping your stove?
I am,
That
yeah.
stove is badass.
It's like super antique and all that. As
Yeah,
long as it works, I'll keep it
I
for
like
now.
it. That's
For now,
very, very cool. What about the chandelier? Are you keeping the chandelier in the
I
in the
am
kitchen?
not. I am not
D-
keeping any light
Damn
fixtures.
it!
It's not. Do you want it? I will mail it to you.
I really don't, but I kind of wanted you to be like, "Fuck yeah, I'm keeping it and I'm rocking it too."
No, I am not. It's very like
Like
I don't
Western, like
1970s, 1980s
it's
maybe.
like-
It's not yeah, it's not a
it looks
fun
like
era, okay?
no, no. It looks like
No
something John Wayne would have over his dinner table.
no one looks at the 80s and says, "Oh, I wish that's such a cool 80s decor. Let's put that in our house." Like,
No,
no.
no. The first house that I bought had those 80s doors that are white and then they had those wood like lips on them. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like they're white laminate
Oh,
doors and then they had like those natural wood lips to open them. Oh, they were hideous.
oh. No.
So I know I said lips.
Yeah, no. Um yeah, there's been some funky stuff that people do. Like, and it was funny the other day we were watching um Weekend at Bernie's. I have not watched that movie since I was a kid. Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I have seen it.
So when they get to Bernie's house, and that house is like supposed to be like mansion from the 80s and like all decked out or whatever. And it was just like laughable how like tacky it looks now. It's just like it doesn't age well.
That was a good movie, though. So
It was a
stupid.
good movie. I was surprised.
So, what's going on with you other than that? Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Uh, I don't. I'm just trying to like live my life one day at a time. Not focus too far on the far future.
No, no,
That's it.
I feel you. I feel you. Well, listen, the retreat details are being finalized. I sent out all of the welcome packets.
Yes.
So that's easier, and that's one thing off of our plate.
Yes. Thank you.
Um, so that's good. I'm excited. Um, Everything's being wrapped up around that. I also am, when I go home, I'm going to be doing in person readings at,
That's cool.
I know, I'm so excited. So it's sort of like everything is coming together with the in person readings again. So I'm going to be doing them here in Portland
Hmm.
at a place. I'm not ready to announce it yet because I haven't received the dates.
Okay.
So, but I am excited about that. And it's in a really cool, busy, like artsy area of town in a really cool shop. So there's going to be lots of walk-ins, and it's at a cool little metaphysical shop with crystals and books and clothes. So I'm really excited about being in that environment again.
How long has it been since you've done in-person readings?
Since I closed my studio back in July of 2020, so
Wow.
almost 2 years, like
Wow.
a little less than 2 years. And and I like doing them online, but there's just something different about doing them in person. They either go really, really, really well, or they just don't go at all, right? It's harder
Okay.
to read people in person for me because
Mm.
I'm reading not only, okay, it's hard to describe, but it's like I tap into things other than just the energy that I need to read them because I'm in
Oh,
their energy field.
I see. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and sometimes you just don't want to know.
Sure. Right.
So that's exciting. I'm going to be doing, but in Lansing when I go home after the retreat on Wednesday, June 1st, and then Thursday, June 2nd, I'm going to be doing readings in Old Town at a shop called Oracle's Apothecary.
Hmm.
And I have slots from 12 to 4 on Wednesday and then 4 to 8 on Thursday, which I'll be making those available. People can book them. So it's going to be a combination of walk ins and bookings, hopefully. So
Oh,
I'm
very
excited.
cool. Very cool.
Yes, yeah. Hey, did you do anything for 420?
No.
What
When
did
was
you do?
420? I can't even I can barely keep track of days right now. What day was 420?
Well,
I probably had an edible that night.
it was 5 days ago. So that's all I know because it's 4:25
Oh, that's right. No, I was the middle
today.
of the week last week. No, I did not. Did you?
Okay, yes and no. So I ran out of edibles on 4/24. No, I'm sorry, 4/19. 4/19. And I had to go in the day before, which I was a little bit bummed about. I was like, damn it.
Oh.
Right? Okay. So I went in there and apparently they were like prepping for 420 because apparently it's this big thing and there's like lines out the door and
Oh
people are
my
lined
god.
up everywhere. Girl, I didn't see any of that happening on 420. I didn't see one line going out of a pot shop. But anyway, so here's my story. So I go in and normally I get these yummy like cheesecake. You had one. Did you like the
Yes,
cheesecake edibles?
I
Yeah, they're
did.
really
I
good.
did. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So normally I'll get one of those, but I was kind of bored with those, and I'm like, I want some caramel. So I went into the place, and I'm like, so I want caramel, but I don't want the kind that makes you really really tired, and and I want the kind that gives you energy. He's
Mhm.
like, okay, so you want sativa, and the way to tell the difference is indica, it puts you into couch, which I thought was really
Right.
funny,
Yes. Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
sativa makes you stay up, right? I'm like, okay, so I want
Okay.
sativa.
Okay.
So talking, I purchased my goods and then he wraps them up anyway. So I get home and I'm like, this lovely caramel, big chunk of caramel, and I take a tiny little bite of it because I don't do a ton of it.
Sure.
I woke up the next day and I could barely get out of bed. I was so tired, and I was like, okay, well, there's just, I sometimes just sleep wrong or whatever. Okay, so
Yeah.
the next night I was going to meditate and do a tarot pull and all that stuff. So I had
Mm-hmm.
another tiny little bite
Yeah.
because I do edibles to meditate, but also to deepen my connection when I connect with spirit. So
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not saying they're completely recreational free, but the majority of the time I'm doing it with an intention behind it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next morning I woke up like I was fucking hung the fuck over. And I'm like,
Oh, weird.
why? And I don't have a problem. Like usually I'm up and out of bed.
Yeah.
Girl, I opened up that package just to because I suspected that I was
Yes.
sold some bunk goods. He sold me a chunk of indica caramel, and
What
I'm
an
like,
idiot.
I can't. I literally in the couch. Like I can't. What am I supposed to do with this?
Oh.
I can't write on it. I can't. I can't. I can't do anything. I can't create. All
Oh.
you can do is sit there and be stoned and stupid. It just
Oh
doesn't work for me.
no.
So anyway, that's a lesson learned that I need to make sure that I get the proper strain of
So I
edibles.
normally buy the Wild brand. I don't know if you've seen them. They come in like this
Oh,
cute
I
little.
have and there's flowers on the outside.
Yes, those.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I usually get those. Because the taste is just the best, and
that's good.
just one gummy, perfect, just like the perfect amount for me. So when last time we got some, the girl was like, that there was a different package that I'd never seen before. So I asked her, I'm like, which one's that? Is that peach? She's like, yeah, but those are CBD. And I'm like, oh, that's
Oh yeah,
cool. I'm like,
yeah,
that's cool, because sometimes you just want something to just relax, but you don't want to be high, right?
right.
So I was like, yeah, okay, so give me one of those. And so I think it was on Friday, because it'd been a long week, and I was like, I just want to relax, but I don't, So I had one,
Hmm.
and I'm like, cleaning and doing stuff around the house or whatever, and then like Mike's not home yet, and then I think like 30 minutes in, I've like I stop and like kind of check myself, and I'm like, I'm like really high right now.
was
So
was
I
it
don't know what happened.
THC with CBD?
I think it's both. Yeah, it's not just
Yes.
CBD. Yeah, it
No.
was.
So that's why I said yes to the caramel without even thinking, is because he said that this caramel is has CBD to counteract the THC because
Mm.
apparently people get anxiety sometimes when they smoke pot,
Oh
which
yeah,
isn't that the whole point is to alleviate anxiety when you smoke?
yeah, but it does happen. I've had that happen to me before, where uh I get real paranoid, and that kind of
Yep.
leads to feeling really anxious. Like, oh,
Yes.
do the kids can the kids tell? Like, because we normally always like do it like after the kids go to bed.
Right.
And then if like one of them walks in the room or something, I'm just like, oh, don't don't look at me right now. Stop.
Don't, don't ask it of me right
Don't
now.
ask me to do stuff. That's the worst. I remember sometimes we would forget to like set up the TV, because we at one point we had like, I don't know, we had to like hook up um what are those things called, the Fire Stick, and then you had
Yeah.
to like set it up with the internet, and then our TV would like, there were all these steps. It wasn't just an easy plug and play process, and sometimes we would forget to do all that work before we had, with the weed. And yeah, we were pretty
Mm-hmm.
much useless after that. We're
Right.
like, well, I guess we're not watching TV tonight.
I'm just gonna read.
There's no problem solving. No.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that that is that's what happened with this indica, was that it has CBD in it. So it's THC and CBD. These are just things that I don't need when I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
do things. So I
Yeah.
have to go back. to the pot store, which is my favorite one in Portland because it is called simply the Portland Pot Store.
The Portland Pop
Or
Store.
it's just the dumbest name. I'm like, okay, I gotta go in here, but the people are super nice. The bud tenders, they're super nice. So
Straight
it's a
into
fun
the
place to
point.
go. Yeah,
That's cool. I like that.
yeah. So yeah, that's everything. So now you're caught up from
Yeah.
last week.
All right. All right. Do we have any announcements before we get started, or?
Yeah, we just sent out retreat registration confirmations. And I included the agenda, workshops, activities, and the menu. So if you're joining us in Michigan, you should have that information. We'll be moving through some really great topics in the workshops. We're going to use heart energy for intention setting and manifestation. You'll learn to connect with your higher self at deeper levels, working with your spirit guides, recognizing guidance and messages using tarot and oracle to validate what came through to you. So there's lots of good things.
And we have some relaxing healing sessions planned. So you'll be guided through sound baths with Reiki, meditations, and integration circles.
Yeah. Well, aren't you you're doing the integration circle and
Yes,
the
the
meta and the
integration
Reiki
circles, and yes, and then
sound bath?
the Reiki. Yes, the
Yeah.
Reiki sound
Yeah.
baths, and also a breathwork workshop.
That's right. Yes. Oh, there's so much. Yeah. And since creativity and developing our intuitive abilities are intimately connected, they kind of go hand in hand. Um, Everybody will take part in a fun creative expression workshop that's taught by Cassie's Parlor, my friend Cassie. And come away with some really cool tools to build your creative confidence. She's actually she designs her own art supplies and she shares those with her students too.
Wow,
So yeah, it's really cool.
I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
yeah, really good.
Yeah, and if you're still throwing around the idea of joining us, there's still time. The full
Yep,
weekend package is $888, and the day-long Saturday option is only $333. For all
yep,
those details, go ahead and visit our website, and that's esotericspodcast.com/events.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. All right, Joe, what are we talking about today?
So today, I thought it would be fun to dig into sacred geometry.
Oh.
So, several weeks ago, one of our group members recommended a future episode about this topic, and I loved that suggestion. So, I put it on my list of potential topics,
Hmm.
which I have. I keep it on my computer. Do you keep a list of potential topics? How do you know what you want to talk about from week to week?
We originally remember that really long list that we had created from the beginning. I don't think I've looked at it recently.
No, I started making
Normally,
my own list.
yeah. Normally, I just kind of wait for something, like if I have like a repeating thing that's kind of come into my knowing or my consciousness or whatever, or I just end up kind of having the same conversation with two different people, during a period of time. I'm like, I feel like that's something that I should look into, or yeah. But so I do have a list.
The same. I sort of let life circumstances dictate what I talk about next because I think that list that we made was so exhaustive and it was so. I mean, there was so much on there, but it was just basic stuff and a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
has been done. So I
Yeah.
love that we're being a little bit more curative about it.
Yeah.
Um, so back to this week's topic. I tentatively picked that subject for this episode, but I was a little bit back and forth. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Hmm.
And then another member of our group made a comment about sacred geometry on a post asking what topic that you geek out about. So I made a post. I was like, what topic do you geek out about?
Hmm.
And she mentioned sacred geometry. So that was my validation. That was my sign. And so that's the one that I
Yeah.
picked. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. What did you answer that in the post? What topic do you geek out about?
I don't think I answered. My a thing that I like, some reason I always end up talking to people about is reincarnation. I
It
love
really?
talking about reincarnation. Yes.
I
Like
love that.
I live for that shit. Like I love to hear stories, or like especially like the little stories of when people have like little kids that still kind of remember their,
Hmm.
like I love those stories. Yeah. So yeah, reincarnation
Yes.
for sure. And then maybe like Also, like plant medicine stuff, just like to hear
Yeah.
people's experiences. Yeah.
You should do a podcast on reincarnation from your perspective and like all the things, because I mean we cover it as far as like, I know I've covered it and I talk
Yeah.
about it from a soul blueprint aspect, but I mean that's just one. There's like 1,000 different facets of reincarnation.
Yeah. Yeah. There really are. Yeah. We should.
I love that topic too. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about some sacred geometry. So the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks, they used sacred geometry in their mystery schools as tools of self-discovery and to sort of, lead the mind into oneness, right?
Hmm.
So way
Hmm.
back then, they knew how badass sacred geometry is. It has been studied by scientists and archaeologists, and mathematicians, and spiritual seekers. It's been called the architecture of the universe and the fingerprint of God.
Yeah.
This you've heard that before?
I have. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. The same geometric patterns are found in the tiniest, like subatomic level, and they go all the way to like the galactic scale. So, they're found in humans, plants, minerals, everything that is created.
Hmm.
And it literally proves that everything is indeed connected. So
Yeah.
it's just a cool topic.
Yep.
Now, architects have understood the power of sacred geometry in the construction of buildings for thousands of years. And religious leaders have planned the creation of their structures, their temples, their mosques, and their churches based on the energetic frequencies of various shapes and patterns.
Yeah.
Um, and if you do like a Google search for sacred geometric architecture or architects,
Hmm.
to this day, there's tons of them out there that base their designs on sacred geometry.
Oh.
The ancients also believed that sacred geometry was essential to the education of the soul. So, there I was like, this is what sucked me in. It was essential to understanding the patterns and codes are symbolic of our own higher consciousness and self awareness. Okay, so basically, we'll get into that, but it's a really cool sort of concept. Ancients believed that sacred geometry was essential to the education of the soul and understanding that patterns and codes were symbolic of our like higher consciousness. So spiritually, the use of sacred geometry in healing is to believe to amplify sort of our connection to spirit and then create harmony between ourselves and the outside world, right? As above, so below, that sort of thing. And
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
concept that'll come back to us. All right. So one theory is that we have this grid work of light and sacred geometry that intertwines our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. So we have like these, I've talked about them before, like our electromagnetic field. We have these 7 different bodies that surround our physical body.
Hmm.
And so this body radiates energy. And like I said, I often refer to this as our etheric field. It's also more commonly called our aura.
Okay.
Okay, so we have our own personal sacred geometry within our aura that contains high frequencies of energy and light that activates, that heals, that awakens, and transforms. Okay,
Hmm.
now these symbols, these sacred geometry symbols within our etheric field are codes that are also used to bring about like our awakening and well, basically that's what they do. They help our awakening. All right. Now, I know I'm getting a little esoteric because we're going to start talking about light codes here in a minute, but my guides tell me that the ringing in our ears, or I've also called them downloads,
Hmm.
are actually light codes that are being activated.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? When I was typing this, that's what I heard. Those are the download codes. Those are the activations. And I'm
Oh.
like, thanks, man. Thanks for the heads up. All right. So let's talk about those light codes for a minute because they are so cool. All right. So they're like seeds that were sort of planted in our body, and they contain our soul blueprint and our life path. and they contain sort of the instructions. I know I've talked about the map,
Hmm.
but that's what they are. And these light codes are made up of sacred geometry. They're made up of colors. They're made up of tones and frequencies. So that's why we react so positively to like the solfeggio frequencies
Oh, okay.
and the binaural beats, because our sort of aura or etheric field is made up of these.
So what you're saying is though that essentially light and like light, refracted light and different way that light shows up or we see it or perceive it or whatever is made up of sacred geometry. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes, it's sacred geometry is sort of embedded in um well, it's embedded in the atoms, right, of our body, or our cells, or
Okay.
all of
Yeah.
those things. So
Yeah.
it really is like the foundation of creation.
Oh.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah, I know it's kind of mind blowing, but it's also like, what? Of course it is. Of course, let's get down to the science of it. Um, all right, so now here's where, of course, I was like, shut up. So those little seeds that are planted, in our body, they are imprinted with sacred geometry and light, and they make up our soul blueprint.
Hmm.
Um, but they contain the memory imprints of our past lives on this and all of other planes or existence, or better known as, they contain our akashic record.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Shit.
It's like, right? So could you see why I can't freaking do stupid indica and type this thing, because I have to.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like even just like completely sober and with 8 hours of sleep, I would probably need to read this like 3 or 4 times before I could be like, okay, I think I'm starting to get it now.
Right, right. And this is like, sort of, I got this from like this rabbit hole. It's like, okay, what? So just
Right.
to break it down, our aura is composed of light and energy.
Yes.
Within
Uh-huh.
that light and energy, there are there's sacred geometry that makes up all of the cells of that light and energy.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, thank you,
I
right?
needed, yeah.
So I've long believed that human consciousness is actually 25% of our higher self that's sort of projected into this 3D reality, right? Like a hologram.
Yeah.
There was a meme the other day and I posted and I was like, I knew it. And so it makes sense that our light body is that 25%. So what if that is our, our existence, or that is our reality? It's kind of it's so funny, because when I'm sitting there and I'm doing all of this and I'm writing this and I'm trying to put it into like this cohesive, the way to talk about it, it all makes sense. But then when I try to
Hmm.
relay it, it's like, wait, what?
Right. Well, it's a lot. It's okay.
It's a
And
lot.
also, geometry is math. And it's math is just kind of hard sometimes.
And yeah, and I don't understand the term sacred, because I don't find. Um, uh, I think that the esoteric nature of it, and how math is the foundation of all creation and universe, I think that's sacred and beautiful. But trying to really explain it is hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, explaining it, or it's not just explaining it though. It's trying to simplify it.
Thank you. Yes, simplifying it down to
That's
something that's easily
hard.
understood.
Because the
Yeah.
word sacred actually means like it comes from connected with God.
Yeah.
So that's why we're calling it sacred geometry, because it's the connection or source or however,
Yeah.
whatever word you want to use. But
The foundation of
that's,
creation.
yeah. So that's where the sacred comes in.
Yes. It gets easier. Um, so
Okay.
so basically, when those light codes are activated, it sort of it's like an upgrade, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so like when we up level, that sort of thing, and when that up level takes hold in our quantum fabric or our cellular structure or whatever, then that's when our cells, they start to vibrate at an increased rate, and that's what starts the awakening process. All
Hmm.
right. And that's when we go from third dimensional consciousness to fifth dimensional consciousness. And some of us can actually go higher, and we do when we enter the Akashic records or whatever like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that all ties together. And what I was trying to explain is why the ancient Egyptians believed um, that it that they understood the power in the construction of, or I'm sorry, to be essential to the education of the soul, understanding the patterns and codes of our higher consciousness. I'd really like an ancient Egyptian to describe it to us.
Well, we
Mhm.
probably wouldn't be able to understand them. but, but yeah. Oh, so I went to Chichen Itza when I went to Mexico, and that's also, it follows the rules of sacred geometry as well. So the Mayans also use sacred
I
geometry.
know. And honestly, I couldn't begin to describe, what the Mayans practiced.
Yeah. We all have trouble doing it, I think.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. All right. So let's make this a little bit easier and talk about the common shapes and their meanings.
Okay.
All right. The sphere. So the sphere is one of the most simplest forms in sacred geometry, and all of the measurements are equal and complete in a sphere and can be found in the shape of the earth, like an atom, maybe the shape of a seed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
right. Okay, but we also have circles, which are different from spheres. So a circle is a two-dimensional, and it's a symbol of oneness and wholeness, and it stands for the eternal constant cycles of change. Circles, they have no beginning and no end, and they represent like this never-ending loop. And now the main difference between a sphere and a circle are their dimensions. The circle is a two-dimensional shape and the sphere is a three-dimensional shape. Honestly, I don't look at something and say circle or sphere, but what I understand, like spheres, how that there's a lot of crystal spheres now, a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
sphere, yeah, and they didn't have those before, so it's
Mm-hmm.
it's 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 a new thing. All right, another shape is the triangle, and a
Yes.
triangle symbolizes balance and harmony and completion. It's a three-sided shape that can be related to the mind, body, and spirit, and then it has that upward facing point,
Mm-hmm.
and that indicates raising consciousness. When pointing downward, it's been associated with feminine energy and reproduction. It sort of resembles the womb, which is kind of cool.
Right. And the
Um,
Illuminati apparently too.
right, right. Which everything is the Illuminati. It's like the
Because
aliens.
there's sacred geometry and everything.
There
So
is in everything.
if you're trying to look for it, you're gonna find it.
You're gonna find it everywhere. It's in everything, right? You just said
Mm-hmm.
that. Okay, so the Pyramid of Giza was built to recreate the energy that connects, like the spiritual realms.
Mm-hmm.
And so the top of the pyramid represents the highest point of spiritual attainment, I guess. The body is the journey to enlightenment, and that spirals upwards. And then pyramids, like they were used for initiations and sort of transporting people to other realms. So it's kind of cool how it was built to recreate, um, the energy of connecting to the spiritual realms.
Makes sense, because in Mexico they use them to sacrifice people.
Go home. Yep. Go home. Sending them home.
Exactly. Put them up on
See,
top.
again, we're back to the Mayans again. Squares. Squares represent a practical and solid energy. Think about the base of a pyramid. It's a square, so the shape can be thought of as like foundational and stable and safe.
Mm.
One of my favorites is Vesica Pisces. My higher self's name is Vesica, and that's the name for the almond shaped area that's created when two circles intersect.
Yes, I love
Yeah,
Vesica Pisces.
I know, it's so cool. It's also considered to be the symbol for Yeshua, Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
But in my opinion, and more importantly, you know how much I love Yeshua, but you know, he was just a dude. More importantly, it's a symbol of the divine feminine, signifying the vulva, which is the entrance to the magic of creation itself.
Hmm.
Right? Women, divine
Nice.
feminine.
Yep.
We are able to create life within our bodies, and that's that's pretty badass. I have no desire to have children. I think the process is just weird, but um, I can totally, I
You can still
honor,
appreciate the process.
yes, and women who actually have children, you
Yeah.
know, women who have children like yourself. I think it's beautiful and amazing, but
Yeah.
it's not for me. Spirals. Spirals are cool. Again, the as above and so below, connecting heaven and earth, spiraling up to connect to the physical self, to the higher self. Spirals relate to everything from the shape of the double helix in the DNA to how energy flows through the chakras.
Yeah.
Um, and all spirals have two things in common: expansion and growth, both symbols of infinity. You were talking about your Kundalini awakening at some point.
Yeah, and also just with spirals have always been in my life. Like there's always been a thing about spirals somewhere in there. Yeah, and when I first learned Reiki, it was Reiki that, and there's several of the, of the hand motions involve spirals, and I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, like what is
Yeah,
this? And it was yeah, it was this really like intense moment of like, oh shit, like I know
mhm,
this, but I don't know this. But yeah, it was
right,
really cool. Yeah.
right. I think that that's super. That happens a lot when we're hit with old, like ancient knowledge, or you know, the wisdom within, where we're like, this feels really familiar, and this is meant for me, but I just don't know why.
Yes.
Let's see, the Taurus. The Taurus in sacred geometry, it is like a circular donut shaped object with a continuous surface. Um, I was kind of like, how the hell am I going to explain this? And I found this really cool example. So basically, a torus is an energy pattern that can sustain itself, and it's made out of the same substance as its surroundings. So I read that and I was like, what? This episode was challenging for me. But it's like, think of a tornado, a smoke ring, or a whirlpool. It's created by itself, right? Like with a tornado, it's wind.
Hmm.
With
Hmm.
a smoke ring, it's smoke, or a whirlpool with water. Okay, here's the why I love the Taurus so much. It's because the Taurus, I believe, is actually what our etheric field or electromagnetic field is shaped like.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So one of the things that I'm going to do is when I do the promo, the art, the show art for this, I'm
Hmm.
going to take pictures of, I'm going to post pictures of all of these shapes
Okay.
so that when you're listening, you can actually flip through it on your phone and be like, oh, that's what
Yes.
she's
Yeah,
talking
because
about.
it sucks when you're like just over here trying to describe something on a podcast.
I, it's impossible, literally. I
Yeah.
mean, literally. Listen, this was really fun and interesting and involving to write, but then trying to translate it into talking about it.
Yeah.
This is not easy.
It's not because I'm pretty sure this topic was on that long list, and I tried to like one like I remember I started to like look into it one day, and I was like, I don't know how to present this.
Right, right. I
So
mean,
kudos to you.
thank you, but I'm just like, wait a minute. All right. Well, there's some other there's some other cool stuff coming up. All right, so there's a couple more shapes that I want to talk about. Fractals. Fractals are super cool. And a good example of a fractal is a fern. Each leaf on a fern is made up of smaller leaves that have the same shape of the larger whole,
Ah,
right?
yeah,
So,
makes sense.
yeah. Okay, but that's
Like,
it.
no, I like because is this like the germ of life? I'm looking at some sacred geometry shapes right now, just so I can like
No,
understand what
yeah.
you're saying and hopefully get the whole experience. So like the germ of life looks like a flower within a circle.
Okay. Okay, so with a fern, when you look at the fern, it's like you look at the whole plant, but each leaf of the fern is actually a miniature version of the whole plant. That's what a
Oh,
fractal is.
oh. That's kind
Yes.
of a mind fuck.
It kind of, thank you. That's what I thought. That was cool as fuck. So it'd be like,
Oh, no, the fern is the perfect explanation for
it
it. Cuz that
is.
yeah, it
Yes.
does cuz it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
good,
each
good.
leaf looks like yeah.
The whole. It's like
Mhm.
little bunch of million little mini ferns making up one big fern.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, the Merkaba. And oh, that's also known as the Star of David. That's a super easy one. Is some people say it Merkaba. It's Merkaba. It's a lot of these words are hard to pronounce
It's
too.
the
So
English language. It's whatever you want it to be
it's
at
whatever the
this
hell.
point.
And I want it to be the Merkaba. No, I think I like Merkaba better. All right. So that is what's called a star tetrahedron. It's a three-dimensional, eight-pointed star made from two pyramids. One points up and the other points down.
Mm.
It sort of harmonizes male and female energy, like yin and yang. And then it
Mm,
actually has a meaning. So mer means light, ka means spirit, and ba means body. So Merkaba
yes.
is light, spirit, body. It balances and revives sort of the activities between our brain and our mental abilities and our sensitivities. It can assist us in our spiritual growth. It definitely by connecting us with our higher self. And you can either do that by focusing your energies on a physical Merkaba, and a lot of metaphysical shops will have little crystals, made into that shape.
Yeah. I actually have a pendulum, a Merkaba pendulum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or you can just do it through visualization. So,
Hmm.
here's the cool thing about that, though. People who are drawn to Merkabas often aren't really sure why. It's just generally accepted as a calling to sort of connect with your divine. And
Hmm.
that is the reason it's one of my favorites, is because for some reason, I've always been drawn to that.
Hmm.
Always. I don't know why. So I thought that was really interesting when they said that people don't really know why. Let's see, there's two more. Okay, so there's the flower of life. Everybody knows that's arguably the most well known example of sacred geometry. It's a group of seven overlapping circles in the form of a flower, and it represents creation and how everything is interconnected. It's also a good symbol to harness the energy or creative energy as well as fertility and blessings.
Hmm.
And images of the flower of life have been found all over the world in many, many, many ancient civilizations. So it is the flower of life. Yeah, you're smiling, Wendy.
I'm incorporating it into something in my house.
Oh, you
Yeah,
are?
yeah. I'll
Yay.
show you when it's done.
Okay. All right. I
Yeah.
love that. So yeah, it's pretty badass. It's beautiful and super cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is Metatron's cube, and that's named after Archangel Metatron, and who watches over sort of the flow of energy in creation. In Jewish myth, it's said that Metatron created the cube out of his soul,
Oh.
and that it represents the geometric shapes, all of them in one. So
Huh.
basically, within this cube, there are five platonic solids that can be found and are thought to be the building blocks of creation. Okay.
Okay.
What are those platonic solids? So, super quick background.
Uh-huh.
Plato taught in the Greek mystery school like 2,500 years ago that the five basic elements of the world were made of regular solids, and they represented the five basic elements of earth, air, fire, water, and ether. So if you break these platonic solids down to their most simple form, they form the triangle, the square, the circle, the spiral, and the straight line. And I don't think I talked about the straight line, but I do have a note here about the straight line.
There's
It's
no
called the
straight lines in nature.
right, right. It's called the point, is what it is.
Hmm.
The point is found at the center of a circle or sphere, and it's
Ah,
the beginning and the end. And it's thought to be the place creation began.
okay.
The
Huh.
point, I guess.
Oh,
So,
it's got to start somewhere, I guess. Huh?
I mean,
We're just gonna
right?
call it a point.
It's like starting point, ending point. All right, so all right, so now how do you work with sacred geometry? Because we can, other than having
Right.
it art or whatever, what the hell is it good for?
Hmm.
So, one of the most common ways to work with sacred geometry for spiritual growth is in meditation. So, you would like hold the visualization in your mind's eye, or you could hold, the shape in your hand. Um, so, those five platonic solids. Okay, now this is I'm just gonna name them and then we'll go over them because they're hard to pronounce. So there's the tetrahedron.
Oh yes.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. I love the tetrahedron.
yeah, and that resonates with fire.
Mm. Okay.
There's the hexahedron cube, and that resonates with earth. There's the octahedron, which is connected to air. There's the icosahedron, associated with water. And then the dodecahedron
Yeah,
is
dodecahedron.
associated with the universe.
That's cool. I didn't realize that they each had like an element association. That makes sense.
Right, that's what Plato came up with. That's what Plato taught, is that those five basic elements of the world were made up of these regular solids, and that they represented the five basic elements of earth, air, fire, water, and ether.
Hmm.
That's why they're called the Platonic or Platoonic. Yeah,
Oh, I
solids,
see.
platonic solids.
I
Yeah.
see.
I
Okay.
know.
Okay.
I really tried to get more information on that, but a lot of people just glossed over that. I'm like, but that's really interesting. What was he doing? How did he come up with this? Like, I would way rather read that than
He was probably just very high on drugs.
I mean, you kind of have to be. But he's like, how do you go?
I
The
mean, I don't
tetrahedron.
know. I mean, there's no way. I don't know.
How?
I mean,
How?
unless he was like really deep into meditation or something.
Or I think he was stoned. This whole episode that we started out talking about 420, and then it's led to this it makes sense because you kind of have to be
Right?
stoned. All right, so the tetrahedron, you can use that for manifestation and creating change in your life. It supports personal power, acceptance of the old, so you can create something new. It helps you think more clearly, and it's a perfect symbol for balance between the physical and the spiritual. So, what I just recommend is that you get shapes, things that are these shapes, and then hold them, or like I said, hold the visualization in your head while you're meditating, and then
Hmm.
you bring the energy of these sacred geometric shapes into your meditation.
I also really like they sell these like wood
Yes.
plates, right? I forgot what they're called. Like the burning that they do into they're like etched
Oh
wood.
yeah.
That's not the
Yep.
right word. I'm not
I
doing
think
it.
it's
But
called
anyway,
wood burning.
yeah. So and they have the sacred geometry drawn on them, and then you use them as charging plates to do like your manifesting or to do a crystal grid on top of them and all that. Yeah, I love those.
Yes, that is. I took a sacred geometry class years ago, and she had these three-dimensional little shapes of all of the different, and you just held them, and
Hmm.
they were made out of wood or plastic or whatever. I don't remember. Okay, So the next one is the hexahedron cube, and that resonates with Earth, and its key function is grounding. So it can help you to reconnect to the energies in nature, and may actually help initiate a Kundalini activation if you're ready for it.
Hmm.
It's also, the cube can also inspire creativity. The octahedron is connected to air, and its key function is integration. So basically, with this symbol, it creates a strong connection with your inner world and your outer world. Again, the as within, so without. This platonic solid can help you with self reflection. Well, it can help with healing, acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion for yourself and others. So, all of that is self reflection, and like speaking from your heart. So, that's a really good one. The octahedron is a really good one
Yeah.
to take into meditation. The icosahedron is associated with water, and its key function is transformation. It can help enhance your creative thought process, remove emotional blockages. It can help you more easily go with the flow by encouraging freedom of expression. And meditation with this one is a great way to attract more ease into your life by providing clarity around sort of why you experience certain emotions and how to react in a more maybe self supportive manner.
Hmm.
And then finally, the dodecahedron is associated with the universe, and its key function is ascension, expression, divine creation, really just the highest form of consciousness. So it helps us raise our frequency to more easily connect with those higher dimensions, and of course, our higher self. Um, it because it has such a high frequency, it will help you raise your own frequency, but also the frequency of the environment as well. So it's a good shape to maybe have on your desk at work if you have like a negative working environment or
Uh,
coworker or whatever.
oh,
you know.
that's good. That's a good
Yeah.
tip.
All right, so all of that said, described described as best as I could, but um, you guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to sacred geometry and how to use it in your life. My recommendation is to start using the frequencies that come from sacred geometric shapes to sort of create and decorate sacred spaces. That's sort of the easiest way that you can do to start working with sacred geometry.
Yeah.
Did you use it in Feng Shui?
I just used it in the crystal grid things. So
Ah,
I
yeah.
used it with that intention to create whatever environment I'm trying to create, and I'll do it with a crystal grid on top of some sacred geometry. And you don't have to buy like a fancy plate thing. I actually don't own one of those. You can just print out. You can just print out your shape that you like, and then use a piece of paper and put your crystals right on top of that.
Yeah, when I took a class with Curtis on crystal grids, he just gave us these um, chalkboard circles
Hmm.
so that you can draw your own crystal grid, and then when you're done using it, wipe it off and make a new one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's nice.
it doesn't have to be. So anyway, mindfully using these sacred geometry in your environment. Like I said, for sacred spaces, healing and meditation rooms. Maybe if you're a practitioner, you'll put it in your Reiki or your massage room. You can use it to harmonize low vibe areas, like shift energy, all of that stuff. And so, especially if you're a healer or practitioner, you'll notice a big difference in how others sort of relax and open up to these spaces.
Yeah.
uh, you know, just like I said, just from digging into this and trying to do like a basic 101, just the topic of sacred geometry is vast, and like astrology, I mean, you can study it for years and still learn something new every day. So if this episode makes your soul sing a little, I say dive deeper into it. And if you're an expert and would like to come on the pod in a future episode, maybe, and help explain it a little bit better, or give a different aspect of it, we would love to hear that. So
Yeah,
reach out.
absolutely.
Yeah, so there we go. That's the overview of it. And
Thank you.
yeah, you're Thank you for helping with it because yeah, that was a first for me.
That's a lot.
Thinking,
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, anyway,
It's
do you have
fun.
anything for the closing vibe?
I do not have anything for the closing, but I did though because I was looking at these things with you though, and so I'll just add this here.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I was looking at all these shapes with you, and about the 64 tetrahedron
yeah.
and the way that it appears throughout the natural world. So this is just kind of like mind-blowing stuff, right? When you put it all together. So there are 64 codons in human DNA.
Mm-hmm.
64 is the number of cells we have before the cells start to bifurcate or differentiate after conception.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
64 is the fundamental number in computer memory and bits of code.
Oh, that's
64,
right. Yeah.
yeah, 64 is encoded in the Tetragrammaton within the Hebrew Bible, which is the four-letter theonym WHWH, which is Yeshua, which means God in Hebrew. Yeah. 64 is the number of generations from Adam until Jesus. 64 manifestations of Lord Shiva in Hinduism. 64 squares in chess and checkerboards. 64 hexagrams in the I Ching.
Yeah.
64 tantras, which is a form of Hinduism. And 64 is the maximum number of strokes in any Chinese character.
So, do you believe in the math is the foundation of existence?
I do, but I think that this is how you explain it. This is the link
Right.
between
Yep.
math and creation. There's something
Yep.
in between, and that's the geometry.
That's the that's sacred geometry. Yes. I mean, I've always been drawn to numbers ever since I can remember, but when I learned numerology, I started to see patterns
Hmm.
in things. What did I just do the other day? Well, I told you that ones and sevens are my
Yeah,
number,
they were
right?
yours.
Ones and
Hmm.
sevens.
Hmm.
And then the other night, my friend Laura, or the other afternoon, my friend Laura, she was over here, and we'd gone to a beautiful brewery. You know, on
Hmm.
Saturday it was beautiful, and so we grabbed a couple of beers to come back here. And she wanted to set me up on Tinder, and of course I was like buzzed, so I'm like, yeah, let's do it, right? So you know, so she's actually doing it for me because I'm just sitting there with my beer laughing at the people.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It really has been a fun experience. Anyway, the point is that when she signed me up, I got the two-factor authorization and I got this code, and
Oh.
something in me said, add the numbers of the code up. They added up to 17.
Oh my God.
All of my license plates add up to either 11 or 17. All of my addresses either add up to 11 or in my entire life, no matter where I live. So I
So,
believe in the numbers, and there's
yeah.
something about me specifically that is based in the numbers 1 and 7. It's the same with you with numbers 2 and 8.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you can't make this shit up, but
No,
sometimes you can't. Yeah.
exactly.
Sometimes you can't explain it either. So
Well, guys, you can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook community, the Esoterics Community, to hear firsthand about our services, events, and courses, as well as get intuitive development tips, card pulls, free meditations, and a lot more.
thank you for sharing space with us today. Stay mystical, magical, and come back and do it again next week. See you later.
See ya.